Right. And if you're a basketball player or a football player, Reebok and Nike and all that stuff. And I was kind of like, well, I think that there should be like this uniting brand. There should be like this thing that we can all wear and be like, yeah, we're nerds and we're proud of it. And so, so I wanted to do that. But more so, like the big picture was, I see, and we were kind of talking about this before we started the interview, but I'm a huge tech nerd. Like I read popular science all the time. I love seeing where the future is going and where, consumer electronics and everything, like what you can do in your own living room and all that stuff. And I see this trend happening, and I think all of Hollywood sees it happening, that, for a long time, studios and networks, that was the only way that you could produce, distribute, and market any kind of content,
Right.
which is totally understandable. But now, because of technology and because of the internet, almost anybody can produce, distribute, and then through social networking, market whatever they want to do.
He said on the radio station in the living room. Yes, I agree.
Exactly.
I think it is happening.
Yeah. Obviously, you guys know what I'm talking about. Yeah. So all of that to say that there are a lot of us, like myself and Nathan Fillion and Seth Green, and a lot of us, actors that all kind of have our own little brands or our own little things, like what Seth's done with Robot Chicken and Stupid Monkey, what Felicia Day has done with The Guild, you know. I look at all these models and I go, the time is now. The time is now to kind of start a movement, a revolution or a nerdolution, as I like to call it, where to me I think it's really important, instead of harshing on the masses and the public and saying like, you will, consume in the way that we produce, to say, look, go with us on this journey. Don't, and I think, and I guess what I'm trying to say by that is, like, when the music industry and Napster and all that stuff happened, which obviously kind of took everybody by surprise. I don't think anybody really realized, oh my God, we're just going to get all this stuff stolen.
Yeah, this is the end.
This is
of
the
everything
end.
we know.
Yeah, right. Instead of going after like the 14-year-old who was on LimeWire and downloaded something and like bringing him to federal court, to me, I feel like the better way to go about things is just to appeal to the fans and appeal to the public and say, look, guys, we want to keep making great stuff for you, but we can only do that if you legitimately buy it or legitimately consume it. Because if you don't, then we can't make it for you anymore.
Right.
So let's have a partnership. Let's really work this out. And so I wanted to start that movement. I wanted to really kind of start the little nerd army going, so that we could all have a vision in this and we could create content together. And I could get ideas from them and say, well, what do you guys want to watch? You want to see like a new sci-fi show? If we put this online and we sold it for $2 an episode, and then like if you bought the full season ahead of time, we send you the Blu-rays at the end of the season or whatever. Like, all about incentivizing, all about making the fans and the public a partner in the stuff that we make. And
totally.
Smart.
So
Very
that's
smart.
the bigger vision of the Nerd Machine, and just wanting to bring in all these various personalities and entities and people that I think also are forward thinking like that, and are willing to kind of step out and take a chance and make something that's awesome.
It's genius, dude. It just makes sense. It's true that we were talking about before we went on air. The tech is just in everybody's hands at this point. Like, you used to watch TV, used to like listen to the radio, used to listen to music, and now you can literally produce it all yourself, because it's fun to watch, but it's more fun to do. If you're watching it, chances are you can do it. Like, my kid will sit around and watch iCarly, and I'm like, write one, man. Just like, you've seen enough. Just like, it'd be more fun, I guarantee you, to sit there and write an iCarly episode than it's going to be to watch yet one more episode. Like, do it yourself. Get in the game.
Her and her girlfriends like make movies in her room.
I'm like, there's a time for everything. Of course, everything needs to be viewed or needs an audience, but like, it's one thing to just sit there and watch other people doing it and be like, wow, that's amazing. No, it's not amazing. It's easy. All you have to do is find a willing audience. And, of course, backers help, or having a little loot to pull something off. But now, with tech being as inexpensive as it is, you can do shit like broadcast out of your house. You can do stuff like create a whole program. I mean, we just read today on the news that they're taking the soap operas. Oh, that wasn't today. It was at K-Rock this morning. Soap operas are moving off network and online.
What?
This is why there
were two that were canceled.
Days
if I'm
of Our
remembering
Lives
the story
and
correctly.
something else.
Two of the big ones were canceled, and they're moving on online now.
I think it's the two NBC shows. Like, I think they've replaced them with two like reality shows or a talk show about food. I think called The Chew. Shock. But rather than cave in. They're like, look, we understand, we're off network, our time here is done, but we're going to maintain everything, the entire production, the scale of it, the look, everything you know about it, and we're just going to move it to the computer every day. Now, this is kind of cool and revolutionary. Me and Ralph were talking about it at K-Rock this morning, because imagine 65-year-old women who are like, oh, I don't know how to use a computer.
Now
I
they
don't
will.
know. They're going to fucking learn quick.
I
They
know.
want to know what happens.
I want to
with
watch my
Nikki
stories.
and Victor, exactly. If they don't get their fucking
If I
stories,
have to push a button, yeah.
absolutely. So suddenly you've got like an influx. It's kind of like when the Twihard showed up at Comic-Con. Suddenly you're going to start seeing a bunch of old ladies showing up online, learning how to navigate and using. And the more people are online, the more that stuff like the Nerd Machine takes off, because then people stop watching so much and realizing, oh, I can be a part of it too. I can produce, or I can be involved with people who are producers. Not everyone wants to be on camera or write, but some people are like, I just want to be a patron. You know, arts have existed for centuries, long before there was a studio system, because there's always a patron who's like, I can't do it, but here's some money. You do it. Let me see you do it. Oh, that's amazing. That's all a patron is. The audience, one big patron.
Yeah.
You're talking about aggregating the patrons from just watching or sitting there in a kind of a more or less passive position and being like, hey, man, jump in the game with either support or monetary support, and we can keep this kind of going and create programming just for you that you're interested in.
Yeah, and so much of the impetus of that was watching our show just barely survive every season, and we have...
Is that really? Has that been one of those?
Oh, dude, we've been on the bubble every year, and every year our fans have, stepped up in a giant way. Basically, the third season, I think there was a really big campaign started, and one of the smartest campaigns I'd ever seen, where fans were buying one of our major sponsors is Subway, and they started this foot-long finale campaign. So basically, they would go and patronize Subway the day of the finale, and they would buy sandwiches from Subway, and in the suggestion box say, I bought this sandwich for the show Chuck. So therefore, you could actually monetize we sold this many sandwiches because of our advertising on this show.
Smart.
That's
and
fantastic.
that's really smart, right? It's simple, it's smart, it's to the point, and it resonated.
And it's proof. It's not just like aggregate or we see based on sampling. That is literally like asses in seats.
Exactly, exactly. And it doesn't need to be live, and I think that's one of the problems with the advertising model now is that very few people, or less and less really, are watching anything live, especially narrative. I mean, if you're watching sports or you're watching competitive reality stuff, obviously you're going to watch that live, and therefore their advertising model still works and is very strong. But if you're watching anything like a Chuck, or I don't know if you guys watched Jericho a couple of years back,
with the Peanuts campaign.
Yeah, the Peanuts campaign, which was
very
impressive, but still at the end of the day, you can't. Tons of Peanuts doesn't necessarily show that they're patronizing those sponsors, and that's why I felt like the Subway campaign
thing is direct.
It was direct, exactly. But it's such a bummer, though, when you have television shows that have a really earnest, passionate following, like Jericho, like Chuck, like Firefly. The browncoats still are en masse, and they miss the show so much and would die for Nathan Fillion or anyone in that cast. But the show doesn't exist anymore. Now, if there was a model then where Firefly could go online and people could buy it, that show would be on right now.
Yeah.
Those fans would buy it and buy it and buy it because they loved it. And I feel like if we can give the public that option, they will go for it. And again, a lot of people always say, well, how are you going to keep people from pirating or theft or whatever? And I say, look, again, appeal to people, ask them. And not only that, incentivize them in some ways. Say, look, first have, about 10 guys scouring the internet at all times trying to pull down any BitTorrents or whatever. But also tell your audience, say, look, if you can report to us that there's a pirated copy out there somewhere before we find it, we'll send you a signed picture from the cast. We'll send you. We'll give you a free episode, whatever.
Totally.
Be a part of the solution, and don't just come down on people all the time. And now all of a sudden, it's this community that involves themselves in making something that's awesome.
And I also feel kind of too the fact of the matter is a fan base for something. Like if you're talking about a fan base supported media, they're never gonna bootleg it. Not like that. You know what I'm saying? Like your fan base, the people that are paying the bills, they're not the ones that are yank it down and put it up someplace else. So you could trust them. It's the fly-by-nights or the people roaming, let me grab this and here's an idea nobody ever thought of. I will steal this clip and put it over here. But those actually sometimes turn out to be free advertisements. Somebody sees it, maybe comes over to your side of the fence.
Sure, exactly. Exactly. I mean, the way that YouTube has been basically allowing people to make whatever they want whenever they want it. I mean, have you ever seen this guy, FPS Shooter? He literally takes all the guns. This is some guy in Georgia, and he does this ridiculous Russian accent. I think that's the whole point. It's like this horrible Russian accent.
Russian accent.
But he has all this land in Georgia, and he has, I don't know where he's getting the money, but but he's got all of the guns from all of the first-person games that we all play, like Call of Duty and stuff.
Right.
And he goes and just takes them out on his land and shoots like propane tanks and balloons and things, and he gets like 10 million hits. I mean, it's unbelievable.
Is it just a camera over his hand and he's first-person shooting?
Basically, yeah. He's got like one buddy helping him out, if even. He probably has like, a tripod,
that
the
man
camera.
is a network. He's a content generator.
I'm telling you, it's incredible. And of course, all the gamers around the world, or even people that are like gun enthusiasts, or people that just want to watch some guy do a ridiculous Russian accent, are all tuning in and going, "This is awesome." There's another guy, Freddie Wong, and if you haven't seen Freddie Wong, you definitely need to check out Freddie Wong. He is one of the most prolific guys out on the internet right now. He basically he came from the USC like computer department, I believe. I could be getting all this wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong, Freddie. Tweet us right now. But he goes and makes, stuff that you would see in like almost like studio quality like shootouts. Like he's like just mowing down guys, or in these giant firefights and blood splatter and guts and things, and the whole nine. And it's so good and it's so realistic. Now again, of course, you're watching it on your computer. When you put it on a big screen or a bigger screen, you have to really kind of res up more than that. But again, it's just another example of what guys can do by themselves with their computers. Or did you see the movie Monsters? That's another example.
We watched it one night. It's phenomenal.
Dude, it's unreal.
Such a good idea. Dude's like, hey man, there's all this devastation footage from a storm that came through. I'm going to go shoot all this and shoot a movie in it, and that movie works because of its story, not because of the effects. But periodically, every once in a while, a monster, like something that created all this chaos, which really was just nature and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it's impressive, man. It shows you how much you could pull off with very, very little. Like movie like Monsters puts Clerks to shame, man. It's like I'm going to do this in a convenience store. This dude's like, I'm showing a world devastated by giant bugs. Like that's impressive.
Well, but you could
very impressive.
But apples and oranges too. Monsters and Clerks.
There's room for everything. That's true.
I want to ask you about Nerd HQ.
Oh yeah, so the Nerd Machine again, the big vision and all that stuff. Right now, we had to start kind of smaller, and that was T-shirts and apparel and stuff like that. Because it's something that I like doing, logos, and again, kind of uniting the brand. And
this
all
is
that.
a man who loves to sell a T-shirt.
Yeah, buddy.
He can get like a multi-movie deal, and he's just like, we sold this many shirts today at the comic book store.
Hey, personal victories,
right
though. Personal victories.
That stuff to me was important. Like
He
anybody
loves
can
it.
make
He
a
loves
TV
it.
show or a movie, but like selling a shirt, that's an art. It's an art form.
He revels in selling bumper stickers. He fucking loves it.
But you know what though?
He's a comic book
It's like
fucking heart.
organic. But I get it because it's like organic, real time like branding and advertising and stuff that's personal. Somebody puts on a T-shirt. That's like a personal choice. That's like I woke up this morning and I'm choosing to wear my nerd shirt, or I'm choosing to wear my Kevin Smith shirt.
That's cool.
So I think that's awesome. But that's where we started, and we're working toward bigger things. And as far as the Nerd HQ is, so again, going back to Comic-Con, there's a lot of things that I kind of look at and. And Comic-Con, again, I can't say it enough, is amazing. It's a really incredible place.
It changed my life, man.
Oh,
and
yeah.
it continues to every year.
Yeah.
And it is like the highlight. It is kind of like if you work off your own Gregorian calendar of some sort, that is the beginning of the year.
Yeah, exactly. But the double-edged sword, I think, of Hollywood's influence at Comic-Con is very interesting. It's like on one level, it has given fans access to celebrities that they never had access to before, and it's amazing. For people to be able to sit in panels, sometimes 10,000 people deep, as you well know.
Hall H.
With Hall H. I mean, it's a monster. But the people in the back have this screen that they're looking at in order to actually get a close up of your face. They're not able to really kind of see what's going on in an intimate way.
They're watching you like a concert.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Like the back row at the U2 concert.
Exactly. Yeah. Which again, you're still there and you're still present, but part of all that is I was looking at. I was like, I'd love to be able to give people an opportunity to have an intimate Q&A that's not just moderator driven, and then maybe the fans get 10 minutes at the end, because that's something that we've always dealt with with our Chuck panels. It's like, I just want to hear from the fans.
Yeah.
Like, that's why we're here.
Yeah.
I love Alan Sepinwald and Damon Lindelof and all the guys and girls that have done our moderator panels. They're awesome. They ask great questions.
You want to hear from the
But
crowd.
I want to hear from the crowd. I want to hear from the fans.